Each fall, we ask 3 of our young producers to choose stories that speak to them, and we're always amazed at the results. Join us now for our 3rd round of storytelling through our young producers on this edition of Main Street.
Funding for Main Street was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you who support quality programs such as Main Street that appear only on public television.
Hello and welcome to Main Street. I'm Barbara Deeb. We have a very special show for you today as we showcase 3 of our talented young producers who share with you stories that speak to their passion for storytelling. Our first story takes us to Hopkinsville, where Danny Vessels tells us a tale about scuba diving in this western Kentucky town. The father and son team of Dennis and Chris Tapp have taken their passion for scuba diving and turned it into a thriving school in Pennyroyal Scuba, where adventure and safety go hand in hand to create an underwater experience unlike anything else in the state. Our next young producer, Neil Purcell, brings us a story about caring for those who need it the most. The Peacemakers is a group of quilters who use donated materials to create quilts for those in need, including those living in public housing and the homeless. They meet twice a month to turn donated material into a gift that not only provides warmth to those who receive it, but a sense of comfort in knowing that there are people out there who still care enough to handcraft a product for people they'll never know. Jordan Upton looked into his own family for the story that he wanted to tell. His aunt, Laura Brewer, has run an upholstery business out of her home for the last 20 years while keeping up with her family and community obligations. Her creativity and quality are a hallmark for the furniture she covers and the care she takes with everything she does. Stories of adventure, caring, and creativity on this edition of Main Street, Young Producers.
All this started from an adventure of diving for golf balls back several years ago. That's how we got the money put up to get our compressor systems, and it just kind of went downhill from there, or shall I say uphill. It's built into what you guys have seen today. There just wasn't an access. There was one place that divers went, to train and could go recreationally diving, and that was it. I mean, there was no other options. And so after going with the golf ball venture and getting the money for compressors and all that stuff, we decided that we was either going to get out of it all the way or get into it all the way. And we decided to go ahead and get into it all the way. That's when my dad started looking for a place to open up, and searched for quite a while and ended up finding this.
What I was looking for was something where it would be on the entry level, and I say entry level is open water scuba, all the way through, and there is some more destinations that I'd love to have that also included cave diving. But I enjoy open water scuba diving. I enjoy working with students. If they could go on and dive and have half as much fun as I've had, I'd be tickled to death.
We offer all the way start out at Tri-Scubas, which is where you come in, if you're not really sure if you want to get certified or not. We take you through the orientation program, and then we actually get you out in the water and tries it. It takes about 4 hours, 4.5 hours to go through from start to finish. And then once you get done with that, you have a better idea if you want to go ahead and become a certified diver. We take you all the way through the basic open water certification, all the way up through the introduction to the professional level, which is dive control specialist or dive master course.
When we got them suited up, got out in the water, we went out there and I told them we got some simple skills, and I did tell them the same thing I just said. These are for safety procedures. It just keeps you out of trouble. Now we did do the, made sure they was properly weighted so they wouldn't be overweighted, but they still wouldn't float to the surface. And that way they could control their buoyancy in water. Okay, then we done the regulator purging, we done the regulator clearing, we done regulator retrievals. And again, as far as they're concerned, if they didn't do it, and I think there's once I had to do over, but other than that, it's they done real good. But that's on the regulators. Okay, on the mask clearing, again, we done the mask clearing. As far as flooding the mask and all that, they did it and done great on it. And I told them once they do that, I said, we're fixing to take off, and we're gonna swim out, and we'll get out to the edge out there, and then we'll do a controlled descent, and we'll drop down, and then we'll get acclimated to it, and we just start looking to dive sites. And that's where we went to from there. And I'd say that they had a pretty good time.
Our main attraction, or our main draw for divers to come and dive with us is the visibility. They can see. Most of the times when other places can't see, don't have very good visibility, you can pretty much see here. It may not be as good as normal, but it usually is better than everybody else. It gives me a feeling of accomplishment because I can take someone that's never experienced it, doesn't know what it's like, and when I can show them, teach them how to dive safely, and as of today, I'll say as far as I know, none of the students that I've had has had any kind of accidents, and that really makes me appreciate what I've done for them. I am very much proud of it. And I will say, if it hadn't been for my son and some of the other staff here, it would not be what it is today.
I'll never forget the feeling of my first completed quilt. It was like, I did this. You know, it was so neat.
There is a light blue.
In 2006, Vera Gramling was here at the time, and Vera helped me. She showed me how to run the machines. We all have different jobs, and she just asked me what I'd like to do, and I said, well, I've never sewed, so she said, I'll teach you. And then Miss Jane showed me how to do little things with the machines, and that was it. It was so cool to see material that people had donated, for us to be able to cut it up into squares and to watch it turn into something. I mean, it's just such a joy to do this.
I think they receive the love that goes into the product when they get a quilt from us. And I like to think that that impacts their life and makes a difference. We have so many quilts that I go, oh, this is beautiful. Oh, we need to auction this off to make some money. Or I'll say, oh, this is beautiful. We need to give this to some, special person that we know is in need. And we do give them to homeless people. Part of them go to the housing, where they take a person in, teach them how to care for themselves, try to find them a job, and someone is having trouble with heating bills, a lot of times they'll send a quilt with them.
Luckily, Bowling Green overall has been very supportive of us. People will donate material to us. They donate sheets to us that allows us to be able to make the quilts. Back in the olden days when Vera Gramling first started it, they were actually cutting up clothes, jeans and t-shirts and stuff to make these quilts. We've come a long way. We use the sheets to do this, and pretty much that's what we cut up is sheets. People, when we start running low, it's like people come out of the woodwork and we have sheets delivered to us.
We all run towards the fabric pile and just ooh and ah over the colors and think, oh yes, we can do this with this, and oh, this color looks good with that. It's the whole process that really is exciting.
We're quite opinionated, all of us, not just me. And when we talk about a quilt, we're talking about it with the quilt's best interest in mind. This looks good, well that doesn't look good. If somebody picks out a color, there's not anyone shy here that's gonna say, well that's ugly, and we move on. We laugh and joke and have a good time. And we have bonded over quilts in more than one way. A quilt will be made and they'll be special. There's been tears in this room, and I'm guilty of it. Shirley will bring in a special quilt and I'll just stand there and look at it and cry like a first grader.
The people that we have contact with that tell us the quilts mean so much more to them than just something to cover them with. That's how we discovered that it means something to them.
If you're going to spend the time to do it, you do it right. We try never to take shortcuts. We try to make sure that the quilt is as perfect as it can be when it leaves here. It's neat to have something that's homemade for you. If I give you something, I want it to be the best that I have that I can give. And I think that's how everyone feels. We want it to be the best.
A lot of that is creative design. Sometimes we have scraps that don't quite make a full quilt and we want to make a full-size quilt. So we put our heads together and try to design something that's pleasing. On every quilt that we make, we put this tag on. And one of our volunteers, who is now has Alzheimer's and can't help us anymore, came up with the idea of putting this tag on all of our quilts. And it's a label that goes on the quilts, and it says, made by Peacemakers, Hotel Inc., Bowling Green, Kentucky. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. And that's from Proverbs 3:24. So Jane Wilkinson came up with that idea of putting tags on all of our quilts, and so now that is a legacy that she has left with us, and we continue to do it to this day. These people, everyone that has passed through these doors means so much to all of us. It's heritage that is handed down from generation to generation, and I feel the same way about this group. I don't know why, but we just seem to fit together and continue to keep the legacy of quilting alive. There are many organizations, statewide as well as national-wide, that still are trying to keep the quilting alive, and I think we play a very small part in that group, but nonetheless an important part.
I would really like to see more volunteers. And I think if people came in and sewed with us and met us as a group, maybe not just the first time, because it might take 2 or 3 times to warm up to us as a group, but I do believe that if they came in, they would see the benefit. You can't go wrong.
Even though some come and go, we seem to always keep the core going, which helps. And I'm just so impressed with the devotion and the time it takes. The group I work with are just outstanding.
We've said in the past, when it's not fun, we're done. We've all been here for years and years and years. We're not going anywhere. It's fun.
I take people's furniture that's worn out, or sometimes it's just the wrong color, and I take it apart, sometimes just the outer cover, or sometimes all the way to the frame. Upholstery is kind of a building process. There's a first piece and a second piece and so forth and so on. So you just begin to cut it out and you apply the first piece, and then you go on to the next one and the next one after that, you know, until it's a finished product. I've probably, well, now for 20 years, I've had the shop of my own, and most of that time, except for about 6 years, it was in the home somewhere. And that was basically because I was a mother, and really, it was more economical to have it in the home. If there was, as long as there was a space in the home to have it, it's worked out good. Been a good profession for a mom with kids and family to deal with.
It's kind of always been that way. We've always been in the shop, always been around the shop. So the shop noises, whether it's her hammering on something or the air compressor going off, you just kind of get used to it being in the house. And it's also really nice that she doesn't have to commute to and from work. And then for us, we always have our mom there if we ran into trouble at home. The first few years we were just nuisances.
Funny story, you know, sometimes you open up these sofas and chairs, and I mean, you get, it's like a piñata, and out comes popcorn and M&Ms, and of course with toddlers around, you gotta clean that up pretty quick before they start munching on it.
To start, we kind of did the small work, which means taking staples out of furniture, anything from sofas to chairs to stools. Just on the underside, the layers are stapled on, and we have little tools to take the staples out to streamline the process for her.
Their biggest help has been in the actual pickup and delivery. You know, that's one thing about a one-woman upholstery shop. You cannot pick up a sofa by yourself. Yeah, and it's been good to you know, help them to learn the value of work, I think, because they need a little extra money. Well, there's always a chair to tear down or something to do in the shop for them to work for it. Well, I wouldn't say there's an average day. I'd say there's 2 or 3 maybe average days. You know, some days I can come down in the shop and just strictly work on projects with very little interruptions. Some days are very interrupted with a lot of calls, customer calls, which are good. Or, you know, there may be a lot of phone interaction with suppliers, with decorators, or meeting with decorators in the home. Yeah, those would be, you know, and there's always the actual picking up and delivering of things that can interrupt an actual work day in the shop.
The biggest thing that she has shown me is definitely to express yourself through your work. She does a lot of work for other people, upholstering other people's furniture, but while it is her job, she definitely puts herself into it and is creative with what she does. So I would definitely look for that in a job that I could express myself in.
I see where people can kind of create their own business or their own job or their own employment. They don't have to go the traditional routes of, you know, looking in the paper or job hunters, you know, whatever. And they can make it work, and it can be very adapted to your lifestyle, like we were talking about the children before and family before. I think that's the greatest thing, and it's a nice, I always love it when I hear just really creative jobs that people have that they've just created for themselves and do and make a living.
Well, we've brought you some very special stories from some very special young producers. We've brought you stories of adventure, caring, and the creativity it takes to run a business. Our first story took us to Pennyroyal Scuba in Hopkinsville, which is the dream of father and son team Dennis and Chris Tapp. This underwater adventure combines lessons in underwater diving with the thrill of discovery in the spring-fed Quarry Lake, where they founded their Pennyroyal Scuba Diving School. Next, we meet the Peacemakers, which is a group whose compassion for others takes the form of handmade quilts that are gifted to those that are homeless and in need. These quilts are a gift that not only provide warmth for those who receive it, but a sense of comfort in knowing that there are people out there who still care enough to handcraft a product for people they'll never know. And finally, we encountered Laura Brewer, whose job as a mother, craftsperson, and businesswoman are carried out with the same level of love and creativity that she has for everything she does. Brewer's Upholstery is more than a business. It's a lesson in patience and responsibility to her children. Well, we've come to the end of another program, and we hope you've enjoyed the talents of the next generation of storytellers here on WKU-PBS. You know, our producers are always looking for story ideas. You can check out our webpage at the address on your screen. You can also find archived editions of the program there as well. A special thanks to the Baker Arboretum at the Joe Downing Museum in Bowling Green. And remember, we're just around the corner on Main Street.